Welcome into special Thursday edition of On Texas Football. A little recruiting update. The Texas Longhorns will have the barbecue pool party here coming up. That begins at 1 p.m., ends around 5 p.m. Today, and that'll be a lot of 2026 prospects. Kids Texas have offered guys they're interested in offering. But then there's a few 2025s as well, and some of those guys will be in earlier today. Obviously, Jonah Williams, they were on their way this morning. As we look at the visitor list here, CJ Vogel, Jonah Williams, Michael Terry, the two key 2025s on campus today. Then J.J. Hahn, the defensive lineman from Berlin, Germany, now at Rancho Santa Margarita High, Catholic there in SoCal. He'll be in today, may show up at A&M, then on Oregon for the weekend. He can probably catch the same flight with Michael Terry to Oregon, by the way. So Michael Terry, Jonah Williams, those are the big names in 2025. J.J. Hahn. A little news out of the gate to start is we had been told that we've been told that Myron Charles was a distinct possibility to come in this week for today. That was scheduled, but Myron Charles told On Texas Football about 9:15 this morning that he had to reschedule that visit. But like we've been saying, look, Steve Sarkisian, CJ, they're going to stay on their 1A targets. Josiah Sharma, Myron Charles, a guy like Zion Williams. They're in contact with Chase Sims, the lineman committed to A&M. Texas could make a push there. But we talked to Chase Sims yesterday, said my recruitment's still open. I'm going to A&M this weekend. But there's a lot of things that are still left to play out in this 25 class. But let's talk about Jonah Williams, Michael Terry. I know you're in Austin, kind of hoping to catch a glimpse of those guys today.
Yeah, I'm excited to see both of them, right? It's been a minute since both have been to campus. Obviously, Michael Terry took an official visit in the month of June. He also took several visits to Eugene. He was on the road to Nebraska, also made a stop at College Station. So he's made his tour. For him to get back to Austin right away, Gerry, very important for the Longhorns, especially when you consider where this recruitment has been headed over the last couple of weeks, right? It feels like Texas has been gaining more and more steam. Obviously, Oregon, another threat that we have to watch out for, and another recruitment this cycle. It feels like it's been almost every big name that you could think of. Oregon's been in the mix of things. So interesting to see where things have evolved in Michael Terry's recruitment. Is there a specified position right now? Is there a timeline in place? We believe it'll be early to mid-August at the moment. Could it be sped up after this weekend? Who knows? But for Jonah Williams as well, this was a guy we did not see at any point in the month of June. It had been quite a while, actually, since we saw him. I believe April 6th was the last time he was on campus. Of course, he got preferential treatment from Coach Gideon, Coach Sarkisian. You got to see the baseball facilities as well. I do believe that today we'll be heading over to see Jim Schlossnagle and the Texas staff as well at some point today. Worth mentioning that they will be all recruits will be watching a Texas team workout at some point this afternoon as well as they get ready for the season coming up. But Gerry, one other name, you mentioned some defensive linemen right there. J.J. Hahn coming in from California, first time on campus. That's a pretty interesting one when you kind of look at it broad picture wise.
Yeah, he's one of the fastest rising 2025 prospects in the country. Obviously came over from Berlin, Germany. This will be his third year of organized football. They love ball in Germany. There's just not many guys on J.J. Hahn's level athletically. So he comes to the States, the Rancho Santa Margarita. PK has a long-standing connection at that high school from his days at Washington. He went and saw him in May. Texas offered in June, offered June 4th. Around that same time, he went on a little tour of visits. Alabama offered, Georgia offered, Florida offered. Everybody that saw him offered him either in the spring at Rancho Santa Margarita, Utah, Oregon, Texas A&M, Nebraska. All these schools offered him all from May 15th to about June 4th, 5th in that area code. So he is a high upside prospect. So recruiting rankings don't really matter with him. The other thing that doesn't really matter with him is, look, right now, he hasn't made a single official visit. So late June, he went to Germany to spend a month with his family who still lives in Berlin. Now he's back in the States. He has Georgia's the only official visit date he has scheduled. That's September 7th through 9th. The key and one of the goals today for Hahn and for Texas after this visit is to lock in a September official visit date. That could be the UTSA weekend. We'll see. A&M and Oregon also pushing for official visits. He may go to A&M, check them out while he's in town before going to Oregon. this weekend. That one's been planned along with Texas. They may maneuver into A&M to go see A&M today too, since he hasn't been on campus there. I don't believe this will be his first trip to Texas. So this will be a big visit today. So something to always remember is I always say it, Xavier Filsaime, Aaron Butler, those guys didn't even have offers this time last year. So, I mean, there's a lot left in recruiting for Texas here in the 25 cycle. And
one question for you on J.J. Hahn, Gerry. When you look back and you see how raw he is, but you see that upside athletically, I watched the tape and I see a little resemblance to the game of Alfred Collins when he came out of Bastrop Cedar Creek, just because you see the height, you see the weight, right? 6'5"-ish. 275, 280. You can spin him outside, you can spin him in, but also just how raw he is and relatively new to the position. Do you see any, kind of similarities or comparison there at all?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, obviously the guys, Alfred had played more organized football, right? But frame-wise, potentially there. I think Alfred may be a little bigger, but we'll see on that. But J.J. Hahn, I'll say this. Even if he's a number 2 for Georgia, and I'm not saying he is, and they don't push him to commit, that says something for his talent level, because Georgia is loaded in state on the defensive line. They've turned away guys who are going to FSU, essentially. So for them to like J.J. Hahn enough to schedule an official visit tells you his upside. Same thing with Oregon. I mean, Oregon has, obviously, Josiah Sharma. They're on the high end in this class, but for them to still be after J.J. Hahn tells you about his upside and how talented he is. Now, he's got to go get it, but the thing you love about him, he hasn't been playing football his whole life. This will be his 3rd year of organized football. So there's a ton of upside there. All right, CJ, let's look at this 26s, because let's get into a little discussion before we look at this. Okay, we're going to look at the list first, then we're going to get into discussion. So 2026 list, Diabell in town. Once again, 3rd visit to Texas since March when he was offered, obviously committed this summer. Chris Stewart, the other Texas commit in this class, receiver from Shadow Creek, really explosive. Then there's some other guys at wide receiver. Jordan Clay, Zion Robinson from Mansfield stole the show at wide receiver at the elite camp there in early June. Both those guys had great days. So Jordan Clay was a big Texas lean back on campus. Mike Brown, obviously father's Reggie Brown, who was a tremendous player at Austin Reagan, A&M, and in the NFL before injury cut his career short. Some other guys on the offensive line, John Turntine, near 5-star prospect out of North Crowley. This will be his 5th time on campus, I believe, since being offered during the season. Avery Machoro is an interesting guy. He's an upside guy, got a lot of athletic ability, frame, long way to go there. Nicholas Robertson earned an offer in June with a cast on his wrist, was the most physical offensive lineman at the one of those Texas camps and the Texas elite camp, and that earned him an offer. Very impressive, the Texas staff. 2 guys, CJ, Tiki Hola, Jamar and Carlton in your area. 2 of the best D-line prospects in the state are Syntex guys. Recruitment's Texas needs to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Tiki Hola, right? We talked about, kind of the roller coaster of 2025 interior defensive line. Well, this is a guy right in your backyard that Texas should be landing in the 2026 class. Tiki Hola, I've seen him several times now. The flexibility that he possesses at 6'3", 280 pounds right now, very impressive. I was able to watch him kind of go through the hip mobility hurdle drills that they do in off-season football. He can move, and he can get after it very well. I was actually at a spring practice for Bastrop earlier this offseason, Gerry, with Kenny Baker, who was in attendance. He took, high notice with the little camcorder and everything of every drill that he was undergoing, every team rep. He was right there to take it all in. I think early on, Texas is in a good spot for Tiki Hola. I think Texas was able to get him on campus in the spring upwards of 3 times, which is very important as well. A&M's making a push. Oklahoma will be involved, as well Oregon. So we'll see later on in this cycle where things start to head. But that's a guy in Texas's backyard that they should absolutely be all in for. And right now, I do believe that they are. Jamar and Carlton's an interesting one out of the Temple area, right? 6'5", very lengthy wingspan, earned an offer at the June 1st elite camp as well. He can put on upwards of 260 pounds after a year or 2 of development right now. Probably sits around 230, 235. So plenty of room to grow. Great BGO. And you talk about what Texas has added this year to their edge room. He fits that mold with length and quickness off the edge.
Yeah, so 2 guys, Syntex, D-line. Tiki Hola, I think Texas would take a commitment from him right now because the D-line class in state heading into the season. And I'm not saying he is going to commit. I'm just saying he's that level for them right now. The depth of D-line in 2026 in Texas is not there right now in the state headed into the season. So if there's one or two top guys that Texas has offered right now, if one of those guys wanted to commit, and I'm not saying they are, normally Sark plays the slower, longer game. I don't think they'd turn a couple of these guys down like that right now. And let's get to running back next, because this is interesting to me. Javian Osborne from Forney, I think, is the top in-state running back. Then there's Amari Latimer from Sandy Creek, Tyrone, Georgia. Tashard Choice is a big fan of Amari Latimer. I think he's seen as a good scheme fit in that downhill inside zone run game, similar to a Cedric Baxter. And then, he's also a culture fit, seen as a culture fit at Texas. This is a quiet recruitment. Tashard Choice he moves around in the Atlanta area. He's had a lot of years of connections there. And here we're going to look at Amari Latimer, 6 foot, about 200, 205 pounds, has good leg strength. He's not a track guy. He's not going to put up 4.4 in the combine, but just look at the legs. Look at the frame on him. He's got a powerful frame. He fits the scheme, the downhill run scheme that Texas wants to be able to have in the SEC when they want to run it downhill with power and wear on you and run clock if they're up in games. Amari Latimer is an interesting guy. He's a guy that, look, there's a lot of talent running back in state in Texas. But you see a kid like this, and Texas really likes Amari Latimer. Obviously, Javian Osborne, the more explosive home run hitter of the backs, better space player than Latimer. But Latimer, man, he is a guy that he's going to be 6 foot, 230 pounds, and he's going to be coming at you downhill. And he's a guy that is not being talked about as much right now, maybe in the Texas recruiting world as it should be. I think if he happened to just say, hey, I want in the Texas class, I think Texas would take this guy. So we wanted to show you a little bit about Amari Latimer here, so get a first good look at him. CJ, he was on campus, I believe, in April with a 7-on-7 team. Zealous Hicks and that group. Some of those guys kind of get by you because get biased because there's so many guys on campus. But I believe he was on campus in April. What I like there is that was a good little sink the hips in the hole, man. He's a guy that, look, he's going to be able to create optimal power as a back. If you watch him, he's got good enough feet in the hole. Not great, good enough feet in the hole. But he can really sink his hips, and he's going to be able to create power. And he has enough space ability to maximize runs. Not going to run away from guys, as you see there, but is a good all-around player, CJ.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to go back a little bit, Gerry, to that April visit from the Georgia 7-on-7 team. I think in years past, Texas doesn't receive that visit, right? You look at it from how Texas was able to leverage a college football playoff appearance, obviously moving into the SEC and a Big 12 championship in their final year. Then you start to get outside folks coming in to visit campus to give Texas an opportunity. And as a result, Amari Latimer returning to campus now. We saw Zealous Hicks return to campus in the summer. Those are two very talented national guys from outside the state of Texas and outside of the normal recruiting regions in which we see Texas gain commitments. I think it's really important for Texas to continue that push, not only on the field, because obviously wins are very important, but in the state of Georgia, in Florida, in some of these hotbeds that we see, NFL talent be produced year in, year out. Right now, you're seeing Texas kind of reap the rewards of having a great 2023 campaign coming off of college football playoff appearance and adding not just one appearance on campus, but multiple. And that's how you start, planting the seeds into potential commitments and guys in your class as well.
Well, last thing we're going to close out with, because CJ is going to go cover a pool party. I'm in Houston today, is the new scholarship numbers that came out yesterday. How could that impact Steve Sarkisian's kind of strategy moving forward? And we're not saying this for sure is going to happen, but I want to touch on something. Sark plays the long game in recruiting. I know people get sick of hearing it. Recruit through the whistle. Like he said at the THSCA, CJ, wake me up in December. And let's see where we're at in December. But I will say this. With the story that came out yesterday from Ross Dellinger, Yahoo, kind of confirming what's been talked about, moving 105 scholarships in football is interesting. That could lead Sark to take 2 or 3 earlier commitments in a class and it not truly impact what was a hard capped 85 number. Because I think there's going to be more developmental players in these high school classes for Texas. Because when you're hard capped at 85, it's harder to look at a undersized, maybe not undersized, good frame, but undersized at the time defensive lineman from what you want him to be and say, man, at 85, I don't know if we can take that guy. We really like him. He's going to be a good player. We know he's going to go to School X and be really good, but we just don't – we're not in a position to take that guy. We need experienced players on our 85. I think Sark is going to be in a different position moving forward with this 26 class. Is CJ, could we see them start this class a little bit earlier, maybe knowing they're going to have 2 or 3 more numbers to play with in each of these high school classes? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but as we've kind of tried to think about this, what happened yesterday and what's in front of us, I don't think it's out of the question.
Yeah, I think it's likely, right? We've already seen Texas, kind of bring in a commitment in 26 from a wide receiver, right? You don't see that all too often. Texas in 25, still trying to figure out what that wide receiver picture will look like. Also to that point, right, you'll see those gems, those kind of guys that are overlooked at the moment, circled back on and pushed on a little bit harder because, of course, you have those extra scholarships to work with. Gerry, you talked about this summer casting a wider net, whether it be at linebacker, whether it be at defensive line, or even wide receiver to an extent. Well, you'll see that next year as well. I think Texas will certainly, push for more and more official visitors to get on campus. Sarkisian mentioned it at the Texas High School Coaches Association as well. Hey, we understand that the cycle's moving up a little bit, and we're pretty glad right now, this is Sarkisian's words, that there's not a July signing period. But with the signing period in early December now, it pushes us up about a month, half a month to a month, because at some point we got to get that class together and then focus on the portal, because it doesn't overlap anymore. And it opens up that opportunity for college coaches to go pluck what they need right away for next year and also focus on the guys that remain for the February signing window as well.
Yep. So again, I'm not going to be surprised. I'll say this. With this move to 105, I think you'll see Texas attack defensive line recruiting and take a 1 or 2 more developmental guys in each of these high school classes, because they can still have an experienced team through the portal and whatnot at that position and have a little more room to take a stash and develop player. With this 2026 class in general, though, I think it's going to be interesting if Sark tries to push a little bit harder early on to get 2-3 more guys in the boat here, kind of start that momentum earlier, knowing, because signing day's earlier now, it's December 4th, it's 2 weeks earlier, knowing that he's going to have more scholarships to play with. So just something to watch there moving forward with Steve Sarkisian. Does he adjust his strategy a little bit? Not much, just a little bit moving forward in the 2026 class. All right, we got to get rolling for this pool party recruiting barbecue day. For CJ Vogel, I'm Gerry Hamilton. Thank you very much, as always, for tuning in to On Texas Football.